Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi to Madam Siti Zamanira binti Mat Zaid as an examiner and Dr. Zulkifli bin Muhammad as our supervisor. My name is Rukia binti Ahmad Dasuki and my matrix number is A20A2262. We are from group 44, going to present our final year project proposal, and the title we choose for this final year project is Application of Hibah Principle, a study of Takaful industry in Kelantan. Before we start our presentation, let me introduce the group member. First group member is Nurul Nabila binti Razak. Second is Sashin Taren, anak lelaki intiran. And the last one is Nurul Shamimi binti Zainul. The content of this final year project include all chapter from chapter 1 until chapter 3. Okay, our presentation will begin with chapter 1. Chapter 1 will start with a 1.0 introduction or background of the study. According to the Hamid, the Arabic term hibah implies gift, the phrase voluntary payment at the discretion of financial institutions to their customer on certain financial instrument to thank them for the loan they have granted them is a term that is frequently used in the Islamic finance sector. Second, in Malaysia, the majority of Takaful companies use Hibah as an estimate planning tools to ensure the welfare of beneficiaries in the event that policyholders pass away. As of now, Takaful Act 1984 did not govern Hibah. And the last one is, Hibah is an act of giving performed out of love and affection by the giver and given to the recipients. Actually, Hibah Takaful is being implemented in Malaysia and expanding quickly in order to prevent succession disputes following a giver's death. True documentation is crucial. In this final year project, we summarize three problem statements. The first problem statement is the use of suspend hibah with that might cause problem with takaful benefit. To what extent in this conditional hibah concept appropriate to be used as a basis to permit the payment of the entire amount of compensation due to a takaful participant death to a specific beneficiary chosen by the takaful participant without being subject to the law of wills and faraid. Second is, Takaful sector must figure out how to distribute extra Takaful cash among participants and operating companies. Various theories have been proposed and used as a basis for Islamic contract, including Ju'alah, Ujrah and Hibah. Debate remains about their usage due to increased Sharia compliance issues. And the last is, a number of ideas have been put out and used as a foundation for delineating the Takaful access sharing technique, including the idea of Ujrah and gift. Grant is a unique form of tabarruj contract with particular characteristics, and further research can determine how it can be effectively used to share access Takaful. Here is a research objective and research question. First objective for the research is to identify the level of awareness and understanding of the Hibah application among the Takaful industry in Kelantan. The question related in objective 1 is, does the awareness of the Hibah application have a relationship among the Takaful industry in Kelantan? And how is the level of understanding about application of the Hibah principle among the Takaful industry in Kelantan? Second objective is to investigate the importance of Hibah application knowledge in the Takaful industry in Kelantan. And the question related to the objective 2 is, why is knowledge of Hibah application important toward the Takaful industry in Kelantan? And last objective is to conclude knowledge of the comprehension of the Hibah principles application in the Kelantan Takaful industry. And the question for the objective 3 is, what conclusion can be drawn from knowledge of and comprehension of the Hibah principles used in the Kelantan Takaful industry? As in other studies, there is its own fair-shaped scope of study. The scope of the study in this research is the study will be discussed on application of Hibah that only focus on the awareness and understanding among the Takaful industry in Kelantan. Second, the informant will consist of some expert people in the Takaful industry, and the research proposal will be limited to the Takaful industry in Kelantan. So, the generalization of the result will be in the scope of Hibah principle in the Takaful industry at Kelantan. The last scope of study is about the method used in this research proposal. By collecting qualitative data using direct interaction of individual or personal interview that is dealing with expert in the Takaful industry. The collected data will be run by Atlas TI version 8 software in the study. In chapter 1, we also mention about the significance of the study. This is mainly focused on the awareness and understanding of Hibah application principle among the Takaful industry at Kelantan and how the Hibah principle can be applied in industry Takaful. The study contributes to the improvement of awareness and understanding of Hibah principle with the presence of Takaful. Second significance of the study also expose the student and community minded about the importance of the Hibah principle in the Takaful industry, especially in Kelantan. Encourage others to use Hibah with Takaful to protect those they love. And the last one is this research also can be used by the Takaful industry in Kelantan to educate and encourage all the community in planning their Hibah by promoting Takaful to have a better life in future. This might present one strategy for educating and influencing the entire Kelantan community.
We move on to the next part of the literature review, chapter 2. Introduction. This chapter discusses a few earlier studies that were related to the application of Hibah principle among the Takaful industry in Kelantan. Furthermore, this chapter will provide additional information regarding the concept of Hibah and the extent of knowledge in the Takaful industry, as well as their level of understanding of the concept of Hibah. Literature review. The first part is history of Hibah. Hibah play a significant role in a human civilization since the dawn of time. The practice of donation has aid in the establishing social and economic ties, boosting political influence, promoting income redistribution, and developing significant community projects. For example, the early Islamic period, church and other religious organizations used Hibah as a strategy to build up their riches and land holdings. Kings and nobles frequently donate land and goods to the church as means of support and restitution for sins. Other than that, landlords in ancient Greece employ the Hibah system to distribute land to farmers. This system aids in coordinating the distribution of resources and preserving communal social harmony. The next part is development of Hibah. Hibah play a key part in economic empowerment by offering financial resources and support to people, organizations, and communities. It has a system designed to advance economic growth, reduce poverty, boost entrepreneurship, and provide sustainable means of subsistence. Hibah can helpful in promoting creativity, empowering underrepresented population, and facilitating economic growth across a range of industries. Another development in Hibah, which is in the field of healthcare. For instance, a study by Smith demonstrates that grant money encourages the discovery of novel treatments for chronic disease, empowering patient quality of life and health outcomes. Furthermore, a study by Johnson and Jones highlights how Hibah has a favorable effect on increasing access to healthcare services in marginalized regions and reducing healthcare disparities. The last part is development of Hibah in Takaful industry. Hibah's transfer of excess funds benefit policyholders in a number of ways, which help the Takaful business expand and remain stable. Hibah reflects the cooperative element of Takaful by giving policyholders a portion of the Takaful operator's surplus. This allocation of extra money can lower policyholder contributions, making Takaful insurance more affordable. Hibah also serves a financial inducement for policyholders to continue doing business with the same Takaful provider by rewarding their involvement and loyalty.
Assalamualaikum to our respectful panel. My name is Nurul Nabila binti Razak, metric number A20A2244. Today, I will present about underpinning theory. First of all, in this research study, the researchers have identified two theories which is related, such as social cognitive theory (SCT) and Maqasid al-Sharia. Maqasid al-Sharia also divided in two categories, namely Maqasid al-Sharia model in Takaful and Maqasid al-Sharia model in Hibah. Now let us see the first theory used in this research study, which is social cognitive theory (SCT). This theory is developed by Bandura in 1989, substitutes a triadic reciprocal determinism model of cause for unidirectional causality in human behavior. Firstly, according to Bandura 1989, behavior, cognition, and other phases of the personality, individual personality, and environment serve as interdependent factors that influence one another in both directions. The idea of reciprocal causation does not imply that all sources of influence are equally potent, that all influences happen simultaneously, because it takes time for a causative factor to act and activate reciprocal influences. To support this statement, Khamis and Wahab 2022 assert that social cognitive theory places strong emphasis on observational learning, in which individuals imitate model influence or model expertise as opposed to merely picking up new or existing behaviors. Therefore, the authors portrayed knowledge acquisition as a behavior component in accordance with SCT, which explains the interaction between environmental factors, individual factors, and behavior factors. The current study aims to extend SCT by investigating the relationships between Hibah knowledge as a behavioral element and personal factors, educational attainment and religiosity, as well as environmental factors, social influence, and social media. Next, the second theory is Maqasid al-Sharia model. The theoretical framework provided by Maqasid al-Sharia make it possible to understand and interpret Islamic teachings in a way that is in line with the larger aims of the faith. A framework for evaluating the concept of Hibah conformity and desired outcomes is provided by the Maqasid al-Sharia. The quotation that follows demonstrates a few Maqasid Sharia models that have been applied in Takaful and Hibah. Maqasid al-Sharia model in Takaful. The preservation and safeguarding of participants' wealth, Hifz al-Mal, is one of the core goals of Takaful by Farouk. Mutual cooperation, shared accountability, and risk sharing are the guiding concepts of Takaful. By providing insurance protection against potential financial risks and losses, Takaful seeks to protect the wealth and assets of its participants in accordance with the principle of Hifz al-Mal. The preservation of life, Hifz al-Nafs, is a fundamental principle of Takaful by Tahir and Rashid. The foundation of Takaful is the concept of shared accountability and mutual support among its participants. The combined contribution of members create a fund that can be used to provide benefits and financial assistance to people in need. Consequently, Takaful may offer coverage for medical procedures, hospitalization charges, and other related costs in the event of illness or medical crisis. Similar to health insurance, Takaful may provide coverage for disability, giving money to people who can't work because an illness or injury. Okay, next, moving to Maqasid al-Sharia model in Hibah. According to Dusuki and Abdullah 2007, Islamic teachings urge their adherents to work for a society where everyone's welfare and well-being are protected. The Hibah concept helped achieve this goal by making it easier for people to give freely of their possessions to those in need, as well as by promoting fairness in general and reducing social inequalities. Therefore, by offering money to individuals who might not have the required means or opportunity, this voluntary act of giving promotes fairness and helps minimize inequities. The relationship between the Hibah principle and social welfare has been extensively debated by Islamic scholars and jurists.
Research gap analysis. The main goal of application of Hibah is to resolve conflicts and improve the distribution of wealth to benefit everyone. Hibah has been the subject of previous studies on its application but has not yet been delved into in detail, which will be present in these studies, which focus exclusively on the state of Kelantan. In meantime, Hibah through Takaful has proven to be one of the most successful strategies and the biggest initiative to protect a portion of individual wealth in the modern era. The basic objective of Takaful contributors can be achieved through the use of the conditional of Hibah. In addition, it is appropriate that the public has some experience with the distribution of knowledge and the provision of wealth transfer service using the concept of Hibah. To raise awareness within the community, the explanation of Hibah concept need to be enhanced. This is due to the fact that the community is unsure of how Hibah can aid to finish the distribution property. Parties concerned in property management should take a proactive role in promoting Hibah.
As we can see in research framework, history of Hibah, its developmental approach and the development of the Hibah in the Takaful industry, illustrating the research framework. This research review the relevant literature that relates to observing the Hibah principle used within the Kelantan Takaful business. In this research study, researchers had examined the development of Hibah throughout history and their significance in influencing social and economic interactions. In this research, Hibah's development does not follow a predetermined schedule or a predetermined procedure. Instead, Hibah has been a part of Islamic culture and rituals for many years and still practiced today. The Takaful industry, which is based on Islamic financial principles, has grown and developed significantly in recent years. A key aspect of Takaful operations is the concept of Hibah, which refers a voluntary payment or a donation made by a Takaful operator to a policyholder. In this research study, researchers examined the development of Hibah throughout history and their significance in influencing social and economic interactions in this research.
Next is Chapter 3, Research Methodology. Research methodology is the approach that will be used to carry out this research project will be described further in this chapter. The researcher will concentrate on what will be noticed in addition to the data collection strategy and the research design. In this study, the researcher employed the qualitative strategy, which entails knowing what to study, selecting a small number of specialists from the Hibah based on the Takaful industry, and then gathering and analyzing the data. Research design. What is meant by research design? Research design is the overall plan or structure that is used to conduct an entire study. It is functioning to ensure the evidence generated from the data are able to answer the research question. What is the purpose of the study? The purpose of the study is to examine the level of awareness and understanding of the Hibah application among Takaful industry in Kelantan, to investigate the importance of Hibah application knowledge in the Takaful industry in Kelantan, and to conclude knowledge of and comprehension of the Hibah principles application in the Kelantan Takaful industry based on the theme chosen, which is a concept of development of Hibah and development Hibah in Takaful industry. Next is who was chosen by the researcher in the study. We choose a few experts in the Takaful industry in Kelantan as the research informants, especially focusing on Muslim. This is because the majority Muslim community will apply Hibah through Takaful agents in Kelantan, and it is easier to get in touch with them, as well as researcher deciding the informants can spread more knowledge and awareness about application of Hibah in the Takaful industry. Next is what's method in use in the study. Quantitative methods are used for the study conducted through interview. The study clarifies the exploration that was conducted to discover anything new or clarify a specific issue that was not previously understood. It is also helpful in refining well-supported ideas and creating a clearer or more defined problem. The study also uses a descriptive analysis to demonstrate a phenomenon, the relationship between groups inside of an organization, or additional organizational characteristic. This descriptive study provides answer to the who, what, when, and how of problems or circumstances. It serves as an explanation, and the investigator can investigate the causes of the observation and the consequences of his discoveries. Next is data collection method. Data collection method is to address the research problem and evaluate the findings. And data collection is the process of gathering information from all pertinent sources. The two categories of data collection techniques are primary data collection and secondary data collection methods. Researcher gather primary data for the first time, whereas secondary data has already been gathered or created by others. In this study, the researcher combined primary and secondary data sources. Primary data. Primary data first is primary data. A survey is considered primary data as its personal interview. When certain target population are involved, face-to-face survey, also known as personal interviews, are used as a survey method. Personal interviews are conducted in order to elicit additional and more advanced information for research purposes. This approach is used because it allows the researcher to learn more about the respondent and their responses while conducting the interviews. When a respondent responds to the question posed, a researcher can also examine those responses directly. Second is secondary data. To wrap the study, the researcher used secondary data in this research study. Analyzing of data that was gathered by someone else for a different primary purpose is known as secondary data analysis. Information that has already been gathered and is easily accessible to researchers is referred to as secondary data. Okay, secondary data according to Rockwell 2030 is information gathered by other researchers. Data that have already been gathered for purposes aside from the current issue are referred to as secondary data. These data are easily and reasonably located. In order to complete this study, researchers gather secondary data from a variety of sources, including journals, books, theses, and websites. To gather data or references pertaining to Islamic financial planning, the researcher used sources. Next is in primary data, we have population, sample size, sampling method, and the last one is interview. What is population? Population is the entire set of data that can be used to create a sample. Or population can be an object, an event, a measurement, or an entire group of people. A population is a group of subject areas connected by common characteristics. The population of this study is concentrated on Kelantan based Takaful agents. The target population for the survey in this study is the Takaful agents in the Pekalan Cepal, Kelantan. Due to their accessibility and the high prevalence of Takaful agents in their demographic, the researchers choose the informant from the local area for this study. Next is a sample size. Sample size is sampling in the selection of part of the population based on assessment or conclusion about the entire population. By researching the sample, the researcher should be in position to make conclusions that are generally applicable to the target population. The sample size in this study focus on the Takaful agent in Pekalan Cepal, Kelantan. Next is sampling method. Sampling method is a technique for selecting a small subset of the population to participate in a research study. This is a method of selecting study participants so that they reflect the large crowd from which they were chosen. Purposive sampling was used by the researcher to conduct the study, which was intended to find out how well known and understood the Hibah principle was in the Kelantan Takaful sector. To be eligible to participate in the interview methodology, population members must meet specific requirements established by the current study. Additionally, setting out specific standards for choosing population members can help researchers achieve their objective. And the last one is interview. One of the most popular qualitative techniques is the interview because they are so successful at addressing the issue with the study. Interviews are a common choice in qualitative approaches. Additionally, both the interviewer and the participant may benefit from the conversation. The participant will have the chance to voice their opinions to the researcher or interviewer, and the interviewer will have the chance to practice communication skill and network with new individuals. The most often used interview data were the type transcript of the interviews. Following data collection, the transcript were recorded during the data processing phase in accordance with the informant responses to each question. Informant in these interviews focus on the community in Kelantan. It will speak with 3 to 5 people in depth. We were able to learn more about the depth of their knowledge and awareness of the use of Hibah in the Takaful sector through the interview. Informant can express their opinions about the significance of the Hibah application in the Takaful for the community using this way. Next is data analysis method. The interview uses data that are collected. In this study, data are analyzed by content analysis and Atlas PI. One of the greatest programmers for qualitative analysis is this one. It's simple to analyze data in systematic manner and to ask questions that will otherwise be too time consuming to us using Atlas PI. With the aid of Atlas PI, even a massive amounts of data and various media kinds may be combined and merged fast. In data analysis method, we have content analysis. We use content analysis and Atlas PI. What is content analysis? Content analysis is a technique. Called content analysis uses small pieces of data that represent key concepts to identify and interpret meaning in a recorded form of communication. The pieces are then applied to or created into a framework that can be used to describe or explain a phenomenon. Researchers will employ this technique, going step by step through each transcript submission code, which may represent a word or other specific character in the text. In this study, content analysis will be used to find articles that mention the application of Hibah in the Takaful industry. The papers that the researcher found and used from this investigation will be analyzed. Atlas PI. Atlas PI is an effective tool for qualitative data analysis, especially when working with vast amounts of text, image, and audio data. This program provides assistance to the researcher throughout the data analysis process, which involve coding and annotating activities to analyze and interpret text. The researcher consider the timing of data collection for the first two components, annotating and sampling. For the next three tasks coding, reducing and inferring, the researcher employ Atlas PI software as support. However, rather than writing report for researcher, the software as investigator in the narrative section by offering graphic representation and citation that can be included in the report. Researcher must move from unprocessed data to pertinent study question for abstract themes. Inductive method can be used in this way to base research question on data. Beginning with a large number of observations to create a central idea, the researcher used Atlas DI because it makes it simple to examine data in a systematic manner and to ask questions that they normally would not, because doing it manually would take too long and increase the likelihood of error. The researcher is able to write, store memoranda, and make comments because the analytic process is transparent and consistent. With the help of the program, even massive amount of data and those from various media types may be organized and merged extremely rapidly. Reliability and validity. Reliability is perhaps the easier concept to comprehend and prove of the two. A test reliability refers to how closely it will yield comparable results under different conditions, presuming nothing else has changed for a certain test, technique, or tool, such as a questionnaire. Reliability in qualitative research can be defined as the validity of the methods used and the result obtained. It is concerned with how easily research or measurement outcomes may be reproduced under various conditions. Thus, by reviewing data under new conditions, we must corroborate our conclusion. Validity is a more nuanced idea. It has to do with how closely our measurement match up with what we set out to measure. Okay, in reliability and validity, we have data triangulation, field note, and informant verification. Okay, data triangulation is one method for ensuring high reliability in a qualitative study of data is to use triangulation between the data. Utilizing many sources of information or data to create topic or category for a study is known as data triangulation. This triangulation technique can result in highly reliable data. The researcher has gathered secondary data by examining prior data from early study and recent study to assist in understanding the awareness and comprehension of Islamic financial planning. The researcher will then conduct in-depth interviews with members of the Kelantan community as part of the study process. In order to improve their reliability and accomplish the study's goal, researcher will also triangulate interview data with data from document analysis. Okay, for field note, to obtain high dependability values in qualitative research, data gathering should be done methodically and thoughtfully. The efforts put forth in carrying out the data collecting, such as scheduling appointments, conducting formal and informal interviews, making observation, and gathering documents, prove that the 46 dependability can be increased. Any fieldwork that is done to gather data should be documented in a report called a field note, and it should also be supplemented with a brief note of fieldwork diaries that the researcher can utilize. The notebook will be used by the researcher to keep track of the fieldwork schedule. Next is informal verification. One method of enhancing the validity and reliability of the primary data used by the researcher is through the verification of the respondent using the specific data signature. Researcher recorded this interview using two different recording techniques, voice recording and video recording. On the other hand, the researcher only took this video after getting respondent consent. The objective of the video recording is to observe the respondent expression as they provide their questionnaire response. In order for the investigators to be worried about each respondent's response, the video recording is meant to support the voice recording. The researcher will then instantly transcribe each respondent voice recording so that any information supporting the recording can be provided in the field notes. Respondent are permitted to edit any incorrect information before signing the transcript text. Additionally, the researcher gives respondents a place to review and sign transcript. The validity and reliability of data can be increased by the rectification of fact, acknowledgement, and verification of responder to the primary data. Next is research procedure. The procedure of the study illustrates the travel process of a study as a whole. The figure is a description of the procedure of the process study for this research. The research process is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is the initial stage of the study, such as the preparation of the documentation towards the construction of the research proposal. The second stage is also a process for determining the methodology of the study to be used in this research, and the third stage is the main objective of this research, which is application of Hibah principle, a study of the Takaful industry in Kelantan. And the last one is a protocol of interview. We have 4 sections. First, section A, demographic. Second, section B, awareness of Hibah principle. Third, section C, understanding of Hibah principle. And the last one is section D, knowledge of Hibah principle. Section A is demographic. First, the gender. 2, age, education level, religion and ethnicity. And the last one is occupation. In order to collect data about the application of this Hibah principle, the researcher will conduct interviews in Kelantan with men and women who work in the Takaful industry. The volunteer the researcher selected for this study range in age from 20 to 50 years old. The researcher will also consider the interviewer's degree of education for this interview. The interviewee's religion, ethnicity, and occupation will also be covered by the researcher. Section B is awareness of Hibah principle. The next season in the interview, the researcher will ask the participant about the awareness of Hibah application in their life. The researcher will learn from that how much they are aware of Hibah application in managing their weight. Besides that, the researcher also will know whether among the participants have applied or not Hibah policy in their life. In this case, if the participant have applied the Hibah policy, the researcher will ask about how the participant plan their Hibah policy in the future. In addition, the participant will be questioned with what the Hibah principle is in Takaful sector. Finally, the researcher is asking the participant for ideas on how the Takaful business may raise participant and public awareness of Hibah guiding principles. Through this, the researcher will know how far the awareness of the participant in Hibah principle is. Section C, understanding of Hibah principle. The researcher will additionally inquire about the participant grasp of the Hibah principle during the following interview season. The participant definition of the Hibah principle will be the first question the researcher poses to them. This is so that the researcher can assess their level of familiarity with the Hibah concept, which is vital for the Takaful sector and will help them make better investment decision in the future. The researcher will also be able to determine whether or not those participants have used the Hibah principle in their daily life. In addition, the researcher was interested in finding out from the participant what differentiates Hibah and conventional loans. Finally, the researcher hoped to learn from this interview how the participant evaluate the significance of the Hibah principle in the Kelantan Takaful business. Last one is section D, knowledge of Hibah principle. The researcher will inquire during the interview with the participant as to whether they had ever heard of the Hibah principle or not. This is significant because the researcher will be able to learn more specific information from them if they have been exposed to it. The researcher will be able to do productive study if they have access to the most relevant information. The researcher will also inquire about the participant advantages using the Hibah principle. The researcher will learn from that how much they are knowledgeable about the Hibah policy when transferring their assets. In addition, the participant will be questioned with what are the sources or channels through which they have gained knowledge about the Hibah principle. Last but not least, the researcher is interested in learning how the participant perceive Hibah as different from a conventional gift giving.